What's up, y'all? Burn One back again. Tournament report. Dean, Nico, and I attended Bouchard Springfest 2023 Toronto previous weekend. We are here today to run through our rounds and go over our tournament experience. We did pretty well overall. And I guess we could start with basically what we played. I played Okayu, Sora, Marine, Hololive. Pretty interesting list. I tweeted out if you're interested. You can find it there. I'll have the deck logs description if you'd like to see what we played. Pretty interesting deck where you can, in the matchups like AOT or games where Sora's not being a relevant like card, you can basically pretend to just be a bar door 1k1 deck. Go off from there. Nico, you want to talk about what you played?
Do we just want to go round by round, I guess?
Well, no, I was just starting out with what you played.
Oh, sure, yeah, man. I played fucking Carmen fucking kidnapped me and tied me up and told me I was forced to play 8 Standby Quints, so I played that.
Yep, I did force
world list, right?
Yeah. I took a lot of inspiration from Tom's list. I think the Adachi and the 1/1 counter are actually too good to not be included in that deck. They do a lot.
Those cards suck. I never played them. You want to know what card I did play? The 3/2 fucking support.
Oh my.
I mean, they got a lot of good cards. You can probably ignore half of them and still win.
The 3/2 Ishka support is pretty broken.
I have played the both of those other cards in testing though, so I know the other cards are good. I'm just memeing.
Dean, what did you play?
Okay, I was on Ruby level 1, Cinder level 3. I was told that we have Hololive, we have Quints, and then I'm just kind of like looking at my other options, and I wanted something that would do well into the board-based decks. And when I was testing Ruby, I saw some really high power lines, and I was able to continuously crack boards and then present an okay top end behind defensive counters. So I was hoping that that would be able to get me there in tournament as well. And I opted to not play Neon Cat because I felt like whiffing the coin flip was too bad, and that maxing out on a card like Clean Cut could give me value throughout the entire game, especially given how high my power lines could go. And it would allow me to, of course, just min-max my resources, hopefully, clock less, and have a more stable game plan to utilize my triggers better than a standard list would.
All right. Well, I think for our seat, right, Dean, you were A.
Yes.
I was B. Nico was C. So I guess we'll go in that order. So round 1, we sat down against John's team, Canada team, or Toronto locals. Lots of good players. Unfortunately, we met them in the first round. Dean, how'd your game?
Yeah, so I fought against Ichika Waifu, basically. It was 8 choice Quints. So not the board-based deck I was hoping for. I think the game was overall pretty good. He got some lucky cancels, I got some lucky cancels in the early game, and then not really a lot happened, right? It's he gets to kill my board, I get to kill his. And then level 3 comes down and his level 3 is better than mine. Right, I'm not able to kill him from, I think I take him from 2 to mid 3, and then he triple Ichika's me, and triple Ichika when you're at 3-0, it turns out closes the game. So
yeah, it's a lot of damage.
So I end up losing that round.
I was CB. I queued into Choice Pants, Bang Dream, playing the combo. My opponent had a really rough opener. It was actually really funny. I drew up 5 unplayables. Through all of them, drew up 5 more unplayables, and Dean and Nico are both looking at my hand and going like what is going on? Carmen, you're losing round 1. And I'm like, no, rest of the deck is gas. Immediately drew a Miko drop search, clock drew 2 more Miko drop search in there. So I had a pretty decent open after throwing away 10 cards, that get that free deck speed. My opponent had just a really bad opener. They at level 1 they only fielded cards. They were not on pace to mill out to hit Q2. So normally in this matchup I would not Field Sora at all because Choo-Choo's hexproof. So that kind of like and super big. So and like you have the interchange counter that doesn't really do anything, so Sora really wouldn't do it all. So in this matchup, I normally wouldn't opt to do that at all. I would just play Fubuki, go from there. But because my opponent like was never on pace to, like play Choo-Choo outside of like slamming at level 3, I literally just like fielded it, and they had absolute because they couldn't like manage their deck state. They never had an opportunity to play the 5 combo outside of like a 1 lane at one point later on in the game. So I kind of got like a free W here because my opponent just like kind of bricked out triple Marine after a free return. Pretty standard game. Nico, how'd your game go?
All right, so I was playing against 6 Pants, 2 Stocks, Full Alicization. Um, I had some lucky cancels. My opponent, however, got off like 2 of the combo, 2 turns in a row. It's like the on attack salvage, and then he had the Asuna back row that lets him top check his trigger. Uh, I was not able, so because I spent a lot of time canceling, I was not able to trigger a lot of my standbys. So I ended up actually, I believe, having to hard play 3 of the 1/1s, and I think 2 of the 2/2s that game. Insane gameplay, right? But I ended up managing to squeeze out a win there somehow.
All right, so we win our round 1.
I did make a pretty bad mistake that I hate myself for. It's I swung, I think it was for 4 in an open lane, and then I pumped an extra soul where I didn't need to. But because of how Weiss Schwartz is, just because I made a misplay and pumped extra soul where I didn't need to, I didn't get punished. My opponent still ate damage.
That is how the game works sometimes.
True. All right, moving on to round 2. This one was pretty rough for us, I think. We queued into some Roy's boys, more Canada locals.
They got second place.
They were a very strong team. Dean, how'd your game go?
Okay, so turn 1, I'm not feeling too bad. I think I opened like clean cut, brainstorm, or it was like clean cut plus something plus a card to actually clean cut, and he went first.
And he
So I
was
get my
on
clean.
he was on 8 pants AOT, right?
Yeah, he was on
Yeah,
8
yeah.
pants AOT, and I hit him straight to 1, and then he Ricky's once, and then try fields the Reiner behind the hand encore brainstorm. He attacks, I get level locked at 0-5. So I clock draw, don't see a Ricky, but it's fine because I have clean cut again. And I'm able to actually clear 2. I end up slamming a blank climax with the stock charge Weiss and the clean cut. And I'm able to actually clear 2 of the Reiners, but he cancels 3 times. And then he plays down a Reiner, plays down a 1-0. It was like, I think it was the one that says you can't encore if it kills something.
Oh, the Connie. Yeah, yeah.
He plays down a Connie, and then he double Reiners, grabbing back 2 Reiners, and then I crack his board. He hand encores he double cancels, hand encores the Reiner, slams down triple Reiner, double cancels again. I double stock heal. He puts down the card Titan, destroying my entire board that I put my entire hand into. Goes into level 3, hits me to he doesn't hit me to 3 that turn, but then basically I go to level 3, and I'm like kind of struggling for playables because I've been like playing pretty loose with like my I've been playing loose with my hand more than my resources. I've been just trying to like clear his board, keep my damage low because I know his top end does a lot of damage. When he goes in for his double Reiner turn, I cancel literally 7 times, take no damage. But I myself am having some trouble. I only get like single Cinder, and I manage to top deck one of his changer because he had the changer on board plus the double Reiner, and he has no stalker hand. But then he finds the climax. He uses it again, sees 0 climaxes off the single Reiner he does get the stock for, and then sticks 8 damage off the top of my deck to kill me from 3-0. So I lose again. Game where
Unfortunate.
yeah, actually, the turn that I cindered, a big thing that happened was because he had shown 0 off of his top check 9, and he had like I just assumed that I would be able to get there with a single cinder, and then he canceled to live at 3-6. And when he lived at 3-6, he had a 2-card deck. So I thought maybe he just doesn't have a healer, but he actually had the he didn't have a zero.
Aaron.
He didn't have a 2-card hand. He
Get
had
the
like a
Aaron
2 or 3-card
healer.
hand. He had like a 2 or 3-card hand, right? Because he Reinered. But he had like Aaron plus Climax, and I'm like, wow. Guess that's how it'd be.
Is so I was against Seven Deadly Sins, the Escanor deck. I knew that my deck had a rough matchup into Kanatamarine. I'd done some testing into SDS, but it was unfortunately not good enough testing. I thought my matchup against this deck was more winnable, and it was. It was actually super miserable. And it wasn't made any better because my opponent had some really good first deck cancels here. But overall, the game was pretty normal. I did eat like a chunk of damage at 2. Normally, this is another matchup where I wouldn't bother playing Sora because of like the Nanashi and Adachis and stuff like that. It doesn't really do a lot against them because then you like lose the Neg Soul. You don't really do a lot. The game kind of like got extended in the mid game a little bit, so I did have an opportunity to do that because I had the 2-1 Sora. I had some of the kind of fell there. I was just like, okay, I put this out. I forced my opponent to like deal with it, and then the next turn, like if it goes one more turn, I get like a quote unquote free turn. I can farm a little bit of resources. He'll still be at 2, and then like hopefully he like unfortunately triggers a climax, and I have like some good numbers for Marine. That didn't happen. Like that sounds sacky as a play to go for, but that's really all you have against a deck like Escanor because where I drew up at like 2-6. And I go, well, my opponent's got me dead to rights with double Escanor next turn. I have to go for it now. I know my opponent is compressed and not likely to die to Marine, but this is my only chance to play to your outs. Both me and my opponent like kind of realized that. I was like, this probably isn't going to kill you, but this is what I got to do because you got me dead next turn. And he's like, yeah, it is what it is. So I played to my outs. I threw it down. I got him close, but couldn't get him. He actually only had one Escanor combo, but he actually just like sniped me for like 7 clean top. Like it's like he had to spend some resources to, like actually get the climax and get the combo. Which is something a small weakness to that deck. They kind of do have to like just get there at the top because of the way their sculpting and stuff works. But he only had one combo, but that was enough because again I had 7 clean damage on top, and I died. So me and Dean were out. Nico, how'd your game go that round?
So I queued into Memory Hololive. It was what is it? Corone level 1 into Marian level 3. The game was starting off pretty slow, but I opened up the. No, I didn't open up. I think I rickied into the Clock Kicker back row. So he started to try to field like some of these cards that just kind of go to memory. I forget what her name is. I'm not a fucking pure VTuber, but it was like something that's like goes to memory when you die if you have like 2 or less. So I clock kicked like 2 of those. He managed to get like triple Corone off, but after that turn, like I had an established board. And because he never really met memory condition, he didn't really have a mid game. He just like he had the Corones, but it's like, cool, I have this like field of unkillable things. So like, what are you gonna do? Um, at one point, I think towards the end of the game, he. It's funny to say this, but it's like he canceled on the wrong climaxes. At one point, he tried to triple mine me, but he wasn't able to sculpt to the door because, he didn't have a door left in his deck. And then I just kind of like slowly grinded him out from there.
All right. Well, that one we went down. We're 1-1. We queue into yet another. It was a team. We queued into Ryan, Jason, Sam. Unfortunate team kill. How'd your game go?
Yeah, I fight against Seven Deadly Sins, so now I get to feel the pain of that deck. Ryan is on it. He gets out the 6/5s, and I'm able to like crack the board. But the problem is I don't draw a climax, which was like not. I mean, that's a thing that any deck can have happen, kind of, right? But like, it really sucks when you don't draw a climax in Ruby. I didn't see a climax until 2-6. It was like on the halfway through my second deck, and then he just kind of Escanored me and killed me. Like it was like almost it was kind of like not even a real game, just because I didn't even see like a climax to push damage. And Seven Deadly Sins doesn't care if they lose their board, so I'm like able to kill these 6/5s in this like 7K, but like it just doesn't matter because like but the damage parity is so like insanely different, right? He gets
Yeah.
to soul trigger every attack, and I play 14 soul triggers total. I don't have a climax, he does. So yeah, and then he gets to level 3, he like double bounces, double Escanors me, and I'm like, oh, I was 3/4, so like,
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
that
actually
happens.
just
yeah,
You're
like
dead.
actually just dead.
yeah. So yeah, I'm 0-3 now, so we'll keep track of that score for a while.
I queued into Jason. Unfortunately, Jason had a terrible game. He triggered so many climaxes. He was playing Kaguya. He was playing the 2-1 Hayasaka combo in the Chika Choice with the Musashi event. It was a bit of a weird game because like I knew what he was playing. I was one of the very few people in the room who knew what he was playing and had a very good idea of what his 50 was. Um, I knew that like that deck with the 1-0 Ichigami counter, it's a stock anti-change counter, would like give me trouble with Sora. But I also knew that outside of that, like there was no real answer to Sora. He couldn't scale Sora. He couldn't like out it. He would be forced to like side in response. And that's kind of exactly what I did. And that combined with Jason triggering too much and just having a bad game, I mean that he like never really had an opportunity to do much. I was able to compress and like kind of side out against it, two ones. Didn't have an answer at 1, but I throw down the Sora side like 1-1-2, I think, against that turn, and then the next turn he sides in response to make sure he can keep up anti-change counter and build some resources for the finisher. He unfortunately triggers again. I like mill down to the bottom of my deck to make sure I'm compressed against the hexproof finisher because I'm not going to be able to neg soul it. Shuffle back a bunch of soul triggers in my small deck. Side him again, get some damage in because of those shuffled back soul triggers on a 4-card deck. And then just like triple swing back after living through the finisher. Just really unfortunate game for him. Was very unlucky. Not much else to say. Just a bad game. I didn't have a bad game. Kind of how it goes. Nico, how'd your game go?
All right, so I queued into Sam. Sam was playing also 8 standby quintuplets, so got to see the 8 standby mirror. The game was like a pretty much a shit show. Both of us opened up the clock shoot back row. I think at one point Carmen looked over and he just kind of like, I think he said like, wow, what a sack. But then he like looked again the next turn and he's like, oh my God, they both have the clock shoot back row.
Yeah, that card
Yeah,
is like that card is so strong in the mirror, and they both opened it.
So we just kind of just fucked around more or less for the first couple of turns. Unfortunately for Sam, he canceled less than myself. And what ended up happening was I got the soul pump back row out, and he did not, and I was able to push more damage than he was. That's just kind of it.
You win that game. You're now 2-1. Going into round 4. Dean, how was your game?
Round 4 was against the Encore decks guys, right?
Yeah, speed and his
Yeah, so I fight against this is a game. I fight against I think it was I barely got to see his deck. He played Corone level 1 and the Sora level 3. I don't know if he had anything else in there because like the game was so fast. My opening hand I saw like my opening hand was I mulliganed. I kept I think it was the level 0 the Amber, the level 1 climax combo, just the climax, and the drop searcher on level up. I ditch 2 and I draw 2 level 3s. No wait, I draw and then I draw for turn. I draw a second salvage Ricky, second fallen maiden, and then I go clock draw 2 climaxes. So now there's 4 climaxes in my hand because I also had a second. What was my hand fully? It was like, was it 3 climaxes, 4 climaxes? There was like 3 to 4 climaxes in my hand at this point, and then I attack once with my on level up drop search because I'm hoping like I just eat 6 or something, and I trigger a climax. Then he single character in the side lane attacks once, and I just go, I have to try field this man now. Like I have to. Like I have nothing in my hand because after I draw and clock draw, my hand is 2 salvage Rickies and 5 climaxes with 1 already engraved. So I just slam down 3 guys. I Ricky just to grab a character so I can have an extra hand to clock and to hopefully filter later. And I just slam a climax. He goes straight to 2. His turn at 2 with his 1 stock as he plays down an Aqua Ricky. And then he puts down the it's like sack a card. It's like a Rushia or something, 1-0. And he
Yeah,
sacks
yeah.
his own Aqua Ricky
Mhm.
to find 2 more playables. And he told me that that was his only play to find a 3rd playable. And so he puts down his only 3 cards and clears my board. And when I level up, I drop search. I ditch one of the 5 climaxes in my hand. And then I draw a level 3 for turn. And then I clock draw and find a brainstorm with no other playables. So my hand is 4 climaxes, a brainstorm, and a level 1 combo. I have 2 climaxes in deck. And I sit there for a minute. I'm like, do I attack with this brainstorm for 2? Or do I do the play that makes more sense to me, which is I'm in a terrible spot. If I brainstorm and hit, I can actually get out of it. If I brainstorm and whiff, I've milled 4 cards clean. So I go, think about it for a minute. I'm like, I think I have to, I just think I just have to like brainstorm. So I brainstorm, I whiff, and then I get my 1 attack with my climax combo over the level 0 he fielded. And I trigger one of the 2 remaining climaxes in my deck. I have a 20-something card deck left. So then he slams a climax and I go straight to like 3. I then attack him. He cancels once. I'm only on 4 stock, by the way, at this point of the game at level 3. He triple Soras me at 3/4. And then my hand is Weiss
Ugh,
Restander and another level 3 and then like a 0. And I'm just like, bro, I need you to eat 3 damage. I got a
that is.
Restander. And I just slam a climax, still one of the 5 I had in my opener. And he cancels once and he eats 2, and then I don't get a soul trigger on the 3rd attack. And so he lives at 3/6 and I lose because the game it was a game. It was a game of Weiss. So I'm 0-4.
All right. Um, I played into speed, the man himself. We had a brief, just a brief sort of like, oh, it's like, what's up? So, like, I do the English database for Encore decks. It was cool to meet him again. He was playing Memory Snow. Unfortunately for him, not only did he not really have a very good game, but I've played into Andy playing Memory Snow far more than any man would ever have to be subjected to Memory Snow. So I was like very aware of what every card did, like the power thresholds, etc. Um, he had the Suba Wall in his deck, which was relatively spooky for me. So I was just like, I saw that card and I was like, huh, okay.
Funny
I'll,
card.
I'll I'll clock the 2/1 Sora. This card isn't gonna do anything. Um, and then we the game went on, played out. I just kind of like played Fubi, just like played normal, like pretended to be a 1K1 deck, pretended that Sora was not a card in my deck, which is what I do against these kind of things. And the deck is, able to do that. He had a really bad final refresh, so I just like triple and that was GG. He even says like, Carmen, like, do you have the climax? Like, I'm dead. I refreshed too, and I was like, I'm sorry, Speed. I'm just trying to do the optimal finisher turn. I am not BMing you. I apologize. And he did like immediately double cancel off the top like my first Mario, and I'm like, see, this is why you need the optimal turn, because otherwise you would have lived. But is what it is. Bad game for him. Pretty unfortunate. Nico, how'd your game go?
Yeah, so I queued into 8-bar Dragon Maid. I had to read almost every card, just because I was away for when Dragon Maid came out. That deck did not do anything. Similarly to Carmen's meme video that he put out, I put out these 1/1 Ninos that have this line of text that say can't be reversed by cost 0, and then they just kind of like never left the board. Yeah. got to like stop clocking early, and my opponent like whiffed a couple brainstorms he probably should have hit and didn't cancel damage he probably should have canceled, but it's like couldn't really like his deck didn't really run the answers for the 1/1 like can't be reversed. So eventually I just kind of grinded him down and managed to seal that one pretty easily, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, moving into round 5. We are what? We are 3-1 at this point, right?
Yeah.
All right. Dean, how'd your game go? Round 5.
Okay. I'm sitting here, I'm praying. I'm like, bro, I am 0-4. Surely we can start coming back. And then across from me is 7 Deadly Sins.
Again. This is what,
Again.
the third time or the second
Second
time?
time. It's the second time.
Time. Okay.
So he actually has an extremely weak opener. I'm like feeling pretty good. Like my hand's like midish. But he like clocks a climax, single attacker in like an open lane, instead of killing my 2K. So I'm able to like, like try to like push. I attack twice. He's single attackers again. Choosing to, I think he traded, or I can't remember if he traded or not. It was like a lane brainstorm. It was 1500 power. I had a 1500 power card on board. I forget if he traded or not. And then I like look in his grave and he's got 4 climaxes and he has a climax and clock. So he's showing 5 out. And I go, okay, if there's a chance for me to win this game right now. And I slam that gate and I'm like, bro, please, God, I need like 10 damage to stick right here. And I go swing 2. Okay, eats the 2. Swing 3, eats the 3. He's now 1-3. Swing for 3, he cancels on 3. Okay, it's one of those games. Okay, and then he proceeds to double 1/0 Meliodas, ditching 2 cards to summon 2 more Meliodases from his deck. So his board is double Meliodas in back row, double Meliodas in front row. And then he puts down the 2/1 Meliodas and a climax.
That's a powerful board.
Triggers a soul trigger on every single attack.
Yeah, that shit's so depressing.
So I go to 2, but I have like 5 stocks, so I double stock heal, clear his board again, and then he card titans me, removing both of my early plays, and it's like this point I'm like, oh my god, like what is happening? 6/6, I'm able to like swing again, hit him to like 3 with my cinders. And I have a memory shoot counter in hand, and he goes for double Escanor, but doesn't bounce or do anything. I'm like, holy shit, my Cinder is 11k after backup because I could not put the 2/1 on the board with the amount of stock I had and with the way the game was going. So I'm like, holy shit, there's no way that I'm going to get to use this memory shoot counter against this deck. And I have 1 climax in deck. I have a 1 card deck with 1 climax. He goes burn 1 4 times, and I hit him with the memory shoot counter. And then I take my 3 damage post refresh, and I refresh clean, and now he needs 3 damage to kill me. I refreshed 7. I refreshed 7 because of the climax that was out because of the cancel. And then I just eat a swing for 3 and die. So I'm now 0-5.
That is, yeah. I watched a good portion of that. My game was not great either. I queued into Kanatamarine. This is the one matchup I knew my deck could not win. Going into this tournament, I knew that my one gap was Kanatamarine, but if I was going to bring this deck to a tournament, it would be in Springfest because I have a 66% chance less to play into Kanatamarine, right? Because it's Trias. But unfortunately, I did hit the matchup, and this one is really rough. So 0-1, pretty normal. I'm able to answer his stuff. No big deal. He puts out the Mikos, whatever. Put on my Ukayus on my deck ready. He hits 2 first because that is exactly what the deck does. There's no way to stop them from doing so. All you can do is prep for the aftermath. So he, puts down the board. He does triple Kanata. He gets the full board. He has everything. I throw out my Soros. I died every single lane, dealing 1 damage, holding the interchange counter. My opponent swings back into me, comboing again, by the way, so they have all these resources. I clear the entire fucking board that turn. They don't get a single lane. I have an open board on the next turn. I Sora combo. So I got Neg Soul and I got all the Soras on board. My opponent, I swing 4s in every lane. He cancels 1, goes up to level 3. And my opponent, unfortunately, tells me that he has the Watame. He plays the Watame down, dunks my Sora, plays a Marine, stacks the Watame, plays down the helmet, gets back the Watame, plays it again, dunks another Sora, plays down another Marine, stacks the Watame, plays yet another helmet, back the Watame, plays it again, attempts to dunk my third Sora, whiffs on that one, and then just, has the triple Marine board and the climax, and I die. That matchup is absolutely miserable. It's literally just a Watame. Makes the matchup completely unwinnable. I had the board. I had the combo down. I was ready to go the following turn if I had another turn to crap back and kill. But because they can dictate the flow of the game with the Miko and make sure that they hit 2 first, that matchup is almost unwinnable. Which is why I wanted to try this list in trios because I have a less chance of seeing that matchup. But unfortunately, I did see it. And that was a loss for me that round. Nico, how did your game go?
Yeah, so I played against Door Choice AOT. My opponent was on kind of like a rough first deck. He had like a pretty bad deck state, but I'm playing 8 standby Quints. I can't really punish it. He managed to play down the Connie when I played down the 2/2. He was able to kill my 2/2, but I had the 1/1 costless, so he couldn't like fully clear my entire board. He made like a really, really bad and critical misplay at level 3. He didn't have the Armin changer. He just hard played an Armin at one point when he only had 3 cards on the stage, or the Armin was his third card, so he's only able to dig for 3. He wasn't able to find his Aaron Choice climax. At one point, I think it was this game, to where I tried our level 3, kind of like both ways, was pretty scuffed. At one point, I tried to swing. I had the Ichika background or back row. I assigned a soul already because I played the initial Nino standby and I had it like from the previous turn. So I played it and then like I hit a Nino standby. So then I assigned a soul to another lane. He was at 3-1. So one of the lanes was at like 3-5, and then I pumped an extra soul to it from the Ichika standby. So it was like 3-6. He canceled from 3-1, but then he was still not able to find the Aaron choice on the next deck just because he didn't have any real card draw. I was able to cancel that just because all it was is that, but AOT doesn't have, at the very least from my understanding, Door Choice doesn't have any like real crazy auxiliary finishers. I was able to cancel vanilla swings, and then I could just crack him back on the backswing, and he just kind of died from there. So I'm still got a W there.
All right, last round. Dean, how'd it go?
I fight against, I don't even know. It was Hololive Kanata Marine. My hand is looking fine at the opener. I've got like double Ruby combo, climax stuff. And of course, I don't play any going first cards really because I'm like, going first. I just feel like the cards going first are like whatever. So I'll just like throw something down, play for level 2. Play for second turn onward. I throw down my sacrificial pawn, and then my opponent looks at me, tri-fields, and slams a Kana or a Marine climax. And it attacks 3 times. I cancel once. I go to 1-0. Fine. Clock draw, double Ruby. I'm only out 2 climaxes, so I'm like kind of hesitant to mill because mill is something that you kind of want to like. I'm 0-5. I like want to stop losing to myself. So yeah, I saved the Ruby for the last attack while cracking his board, and then on the second Ruby, I go, okay, I need something good. I don't have a brainstorm. I don't have a way to get a brainstorm. I need something good. So I see my first card. It's not what I need. I'm like, okay, I just go deeper, and then I reveal 3 climaxes straight. Okay, it's one of those games. It's been that game 5 games in a row, so we're on game number 6. His turn at level 1 is he slams down 2 6Ks and a random 0 and slams another climax, another Marine climax. I'm just like, "Oh, okay, it's one of those." The damage sticks, I go to, like, mid 2. I'm able to, like, field a Weiss and another level 1 climax. So I'm able to, like, keep in my hand. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm in a pretty good deck state. I hit him to 2, and then he single Kanatas, puts down the only other character in his hand, which is the 2/1 backup, and the 1/0 encore, like the clock encore, whatever. Because he clocked one of them, and then that's his board, and like 2 brainstorms that both whiffed. And then he slams down his single stock soul and grabs back counter and, like, I think, like, Marine. I crack the board. It's like a single Kanata. Like, it is what it is. I hit him to 3, and I'm at still 2-4 because I triple canceled. And then he looks at my fresh deck that has like 8 climax, or he has like 8 yeah, 8 climaxes in my fresh deck. So I didn't trigger one. And he goes, the time is now, and he slams the Marine down, sacking his back row to then slam the climax down and go down to 0 hand. And I cancel the burn 2, and then I eat a swing for 5, taking me to like 3-4. After I to eat another swing on that turn, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess, and this was my misplay. I did forget to drop search on this turn. I did forget to drop search when I ate the 5 because I was like in disbelief this 5 stuck. I was also in disbelief he had no hand. So then I get my single cinder down, and he's at like 3-2 or 3-3, and I go, yeah, cinder swing cancels on 3. Okay, burn 1, eats 1. Top deck, swing for 2, cancels on 2. Swing for 2, cancels on 2. Okay, well, I guess that drop search didn't matter. Nothing I grabbed would have made this better. But now I'm like 2-5. He swings for 2. I eat the 2 and I die. So that's 6 losses. Now that's 0-6. Pretty good record, I know. How'd you guys do?
I played into 8-door Quince. um, 8-door Quince has no out to Sora, and I do not care at all about losing my Okayus on offense. The purpose of that card is to find the piece for Sora and mill my deck to the next deck. So pretty easy game for me. I literally slammed those cards down. My opponent had literally no answer. I won that game from level 2. That was like might have been my easiest game of the day. It's just a way too easy matchup for my deck. I can pivot however I need to. The game goes fast. I could just play like a 1k1 if the game goes normally, like one did. I can just put out Sora, and this deck has absolutely no answer aside from like one Adachi sends my card to memory, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. As long as I get that one free turn, get a triple Mario you the next one. Yeah, that's about it. Nico, how'd you do?
Yeah, so this game was a little bit on the freer side. I queued into 8 Pants FGO. This was a guy I actually played when I visited Toronto in October. He's still playing the same deck. He's still playing like Mash and what's her name? Da Vinci. Yeah, that's the character. The Mash and Da Vinci waifu. Unfortunately for him, his deck does not have outs to quintuplets. So I put down the 1/1 Nino that cannot be reversed, and he cannot answer it. He does manage to put down the how his deck works. He has like this 2/1 back row that changes into the 3/2 mash that has Neg Soul. So he manages to put that down. But during that turn, I got like a couple fairly decent cancels off on the first deck. But what that allowed me to do is to like mill down my deck, and then I was able to shuffle back a whole bunch of junk that I like did not ever want to see again on like my next deck into my deck after I like milled down my deck to one card, and then I just kind of like took a blank turn because he only could neg 3 solo in 2 lanes. So I shuffled like I got a whole bunch of junk out of my deck, hyper compressed. I think I had like I want to say it was like a 9 or 10 stock going into my second deck. Pretty hyper compressed. At that point I was like 1-3. I think might have even been less, just because at that point like my hand wasn't strained at all. I refreshed really well. Um, yeah, just in general. So he started swinging big with mashes on the following turn after I took a blank turn. He wasn't able to stick any damage. I think I was like just straight like 2-0 at that point. And then from there, I played a couple 2-2s, like more, I think, just straight from hand. And Apance FGO doesn't have any answers. I think MASH only sits like 13K behind the 2-1 support. And I managed to stand by out. I think it was like it was going so well that I think I was like overhand, so I was able to like discard the 3-2 support and then just like stand by that out the next turn. So my 2-2s kind of cracked over his board, and after that, like that deck doesn't really have any real like means to recover. So the game ended up going to time, but it was pretty rough for him because I think on his final turn he was like I want to say like 3-3 or 3-4, and then I just ended up being a 2-5, so I just passed for my final turn. So went 6-0 there.
All right. So yeah, that was it. We ended at 9th place overall, which was pretty good. We were on deck check, but unfortunately, no one fails deck check in Toronto anymore. I thought that curse was more guaranteed, but I guess not. We could not sneak into top 8. But me personally, I don't think I'll be queuing this one again. It was a pretty experimental pick. I'm very happy with how it performed. My matchup holes, I knew that Kanatamarian was a bad one. I did not expect 7 Deadly Sins to be a bad one, or as bad as it was. I thought I'd be able to finesse that matchup a little better. But no, I was not. Sora really doesn't matter against that deck because cards like Nanashi, the card Titan, as well as the way their finisher works with bounce. You don't really have an opportunity to interact with it. I think that's kind of like the note we have on the day. 7 Deadly Sins is quite a deck. There was quite a lot of at this tournament. I don't know if you guys have a differing opinion, but that's kind of my takeaway from this event.
Yeah, for a deck that I know you say the price doesn't matter, but like for a deck that's like 4 times the price of the other good decks, there was like I didn't expect to see as much as I did, but world's hype, and I guess the people that want it have it. So
Yeah, I my big my thing with the deck, I put this literally on the slide. I put card Titan Nanashi on the slide. I think this card in 7 is actually disgusting. We talked about it briefly before we started recording, but like the only way to quote unquote counteract Escanor is to like be at 2-0, right? Like to heal as much as possible. The fact that you putting out like a big healer, like even in your deck, Dean, like the Blake, like one of the better healers that exist.
It dies, and then I feel like I'm crippled.
Yeah, like you spend 2 stock on that. Like okay,
in your hand,
1 stock and a card, 1 stock and a card, right? On that, and your opponent just like plays a 2-1 and kills 2 of them.
And so here's the thing that's also really bad about that. That's even like worse is they put so little into that. And if I am to literally have a turn, I either have to trigger my climaxes or clock draw. And the second I'm clock drawing because I stock healed, it's like, what was the point?
Yeah, like it just feels bad all around.
Yeah.
The fact that you don't even get to keep your 2 soul body is the big thing, because they only pay 1 for that card, and they answer 2 lanes with it. Because even if you could say like, yeah, card Titan doesn't always hit, when you're
hit every time against me. So.
When you're considering the card, like as a competitive player, like building a deck, like thinking about the meta, you have to assume in matchups where you play against a deck that has card Titan hits every time, because the like high roll of card Titan is that it hits, right? Like you have to assume the card hits. Yeah. You have to assume the card hits because it can, and what are you gonna do against it? And the answer pretty much every deck in the meta has right now is that there isn't one.
Die. You just die.
You just kind of die because like when the answer to Escanor is to be as low as damage as possible, so play some early play healers. The fact that you don't even get to keep your 2-soul beater against a deck that literally fields nothing bigger than 657k base is like the worst feeling in the world. Like this deck that literally just throws garbage at you every turn, just answers your thing you paid 2 stock for free, and you had to play it anyway to try to live against the finisher. So it's like it feels bad all around. I don't think Card Titan's OP in most sets, but I think in Seven Deadly Sins, the way it works out is actually a little bit too gross.
Yeah, there's a lot of
just plays a little too well into like their game plan. Just because with that they get to open up extra lanes, and if you're identifying you're playing as against like Seven Deadly Sins in general, you kind of want to in a sense like tank up, try to heal down, but then like they're probably gonna run like 2 Card Titan, they're gonna slam one down. It's like at worst they get to clear an early play lane, and if they high roll, which you should be playing for, and Seven Deadly Sins compresses pretty well, so they're probably gonna hit. They just kill 2 lanes, and they say like haha lol. Now you get to push extra damage, get fucked.
Yeah, well, I think the other problem is like that 1-0 getting to hit a soul trigger every attack on your like susceptible deck. It's like we already have this problem in Weiss of like games being less stable due to just higher soul trigger counts in general. But not only does Seven Deadly Sins running these really high soul trigger counts in their deck, they're also able to just go, man, I hope I see like soul triggers in my top 6 cards when attacking, and then they just get to like continuously trigger them. So not only do they have like almost like the 50-50 soul trigger spread like normal decks do nowadays, but they're also able to check 2 cards on every attack. It's like effectively like what's that? It's like 75% chance plus that like every trigger hits a soul trigger.
Yeah, if
And
they
so,
get
like,
the 2 out, it's pretty gross that they can always at least fish for a normal trigger, let alone.
Yeah, so you're sitting there and because normally it's you just like you hope that you have like a good damage parity on first deck. But when they're like sitting there on first deck just going, yeah, 3-3-3, you go, oh man. 2 of those stick, that's 6 damage. That's a lot more than like a normal deck. Like right, you might normally like 4 to 5. But like suddenly you're eating 6. And that's enough to like put you behind and force you to stock heal, and then you get hit with the Card Titan. So the way that the game comes out, it's like pretty gross.
Yeah, I think in that deck specifically, Card Titan is like super fucking unfair feeling because like you're only out as most decks because like let's be honest, there's no out Seven Deadly Sins.
No, once they get to level 3, you can't. Once they get to level 3,
there's no out. There's no counterplay. You can read the cards as much as you want. You can tell me that Escanor has the restrictions where he has to have full board. He has to have this.
Your boy Speed had the counterplay.
He did. He did have the you can't have a center lane, right?
No. He had the Suba wall, which is hexproof.
Oh, the Suba wall is hexproof. Yeah, that is
Bro, put that behind a defensive counter. That there. What are they gonna do?
Sure.
I mean, the joke
a bit
is
of a whiff.
like the joke is that like literally everything that does have counterplay is unplayable, or it's Attack on Titan with like the choice level 3 where they play for a level 2 game that's a long
and you have to have 2 armaments in the back.
Yeah, like I know it's absurd, but like
that's the only outs. Yeah, you're right. It is absurd. The fact that the only out that exists is that absurd is ridiculous.
And here's a big problem. They'll look at you and they'll just single Escanor and they'll still get like 5 burn ones.
Yeah,
you only get hit with 5. I think almost every single time they always reveal the stock soul, dude.
No. That is revealing. No, you have a board of triple
stock soul.
Nico, you have a board of triple of 5 hexproof cards behind a defensive counter, and they still get 5 burn ones. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they do. They still
I'm
always
saying
get 5 burn ones.
In a world where you have done everything in your power, they can still Gil Thunder, put the stock soul on top, Escanor with the 1 lane, 5 burn ones. You have, and that's as weak as you can make them. That is taking a deck choice that is mediocre and bending over backwards in the matchup to get this absurd board with this hand. I don't know how you triple EP heal plus triple change or double change, but you somehow do. And you still can get blown out by that just that finisher. So
I mean, like, yeah, I agree with you. Escanor right now is like a little.
I think it's a combination of 3 cards.
It's really cool that like I feel like if I don't kill them from like 2-4, 2-5, before they can potentially like really clock themselves to 3 and pop off and kill me, like I just can't win. I
there is
have to
one
kill them
card.
first I have to kill them first from level 2, which is a little insane.
There is one card that has the technology.
What's the card?
It's in I think it might be in Slime. It's a 2/1 that like the climax combo is you memory a card in your opponent's grave. They only play 2 of the choice.
Yeah, remove
like,
their choice.
Did you know Angel Beats has a similar card? Maybe Angel Beats is actually the play.
Yeah, it's
No,
it's
no,
like,
you play Haruhi, information binding. They can't Escanor you if they can't play this.
yeah, but like see, but like once again, we're getting to the problem of like you have to like literally joke about like some of the worst cards in the game as like you're out because of
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. Like I think definitely Sins right now to me is 3 cards. It's the 2/1 Nanashi, the card Titan, the Escanor himself, and the Gil Thunder Bouncer. I do not.
Did you want to know a fun fact real quick though, Carmen?
Yeah, what's up?
Information binding doesn't stop the first Escanor.
Fuck, you're right. It doesn't.
insane. It's
Absolutely
just as good.
insane.
Also, you would need to have the counter. It's a counter, right?
Oh, it removes a soul. It removes a soul. That's it. It makes it -1 ping.
Wait, what is this?
The information binding, the anti-climax from Haruhi.
Oh, but they would have to not bounce a lane too and front a card where you could use the event, right?
Yeah, that's why I said like you're not stopping the first Escanor.
Yeah,
You're
you
not
can't
stopping
stop
any
it.
of them at that point.
Yeah, you can't stop them. They're strong. Like I think it's those 3 cards. I don't think Bushiroad thought. Well, okay, I'll say this. I don't think the person who made SDS2 looked at a single SDS1 card, like at all. Sometimes because I don't think JP Bushiroad would have ever printed Escanor into a set with number 1 good Stockstill combos, number 2 a set that had King bounce effect, like check 3 rearrange bounce. I don't think anyone would ever have done that. Like I think that's a like oversight. If it's not an oversight, like I don't know, that's a like total. If this was like intentional, then I don't know. The person who
The
tested
intended
it,
play experience.
the person who tested it has absolutely no like insight into how toxic this stuff can be, because there's something to be said for insane, absolutely crazy finishers, right? Like we've seen absolutely crazy, insane finishers in tons of sets across both formats, right? Like shit like Konosuba, like like even relatively recently stuff like Assault Lily, like, and even those, right? Those still were like susceptible to counters. Like you could
Konosuba
counter
wasn't.
them.
That was like the problem. If Konosuba had the nuts, then you could
Konosuba back then, yeah, you couldn't.
and that was
Yeah.
also a deck that people often said maybe this should be hit back then too, right?
Yeah, that was before we had a ban list. Yeah, but like even something like Assault Lily that like mills 18 cards off the bottom of your deck and attacks 4 times, like that still folded to like memory kick counter. Like you couldn't get the restand, you couldn't get the stuff off. This is just like all of the restrictions on the combo, right? Like that balance it, quote unquote, by Bushiroad math. Like you gotta have full board, you gotta ditch a specific card, you gotta have this going on. All of that is completely like thrown out the window because of the Gil Thunder Bouncer. Because as long as your opponent sequences their attacks and it's a complete and total like, stick in the mud, you can't interact with it at all because they direct in the open lane a paying cost, and then they front paying cost with 2 Escanors, and you have no opportunity to turn off the combo. So it's just there's just no way to interact with it at all. And the Nanashi, the card Titan at 2, makes it so that you, as the player, like hedging your bets against Escanor, trying to heal down, trying to stay as low as possible, while dealing as much damage as possible to try to get them to not even be able to do their combo, or at least be very high when they go for it, means that you don't even get to keep your two bodies, even though this deck doesn't field a single card above 7k, other than the Diane healer, which they have to ditch a hand to do and don't typically do in most games, unless they're the game's going long and they're trying to spin their wheels for a turn. It's just ridiculous how these 3 cards work together, where they just don't have to interface or interact at all with any deck that exists. Even some of the most interactive, oppressive mid game decks that we've ever seen, shit like Kanatamarine or whatever. Who even cares? Just slam 2 card Titan, bro. How is board even real?
Yeah,
just don't look at it.
Even Kanatamarine though, single card Titan can hurt them significantly in the mid game, right?
Yeah, extremely.
And it's Hololive already will be behind in damage, and then they have to deal with triple Soul Trigger from this 1/0. Right, they have to deal with card Titan, clearing 2 Kanatas, and I'm assuming a 3 Soul Swing in the last lane, right?
Yeah, and I mean
Kanata 3/3, and it's they're already behind in damage.
If the game is going 1 level a turn, like Fast White Schwartz, Kanatamarine has literally no chance, because they're pushing so much damage a turn. Kanatamarine doesn't compress until the second Kanata turn. They have absolutely no hope. They just die. Pretty cool game.
I think the worst part is I feel like 7 Deadly Sins, sure you can crutch these money counters, but what even
Ike had money
English has money counters right now, right? It's cool, Ruby has a money counter that's full field condition, so Gil Thunder just kind of shits on that, right?
Kaguya has one.
You clutch Memory Kick, but once again, Gil Thunder bounces a lane, so they'll always have one Escanor, and more often than not, they'll be able to be haha, ping 6 lol, and you're just kind of get fucked.
That's the problem, is that even if you have anti-damage, let's say you're playing Kagi, you got the vent thing, and they only do single bounce, because they can double bounce. I think that's the problem. They can double bounce, and I've seen it happen. Or they can card Titan plus bounce, right? They can get there if they really need to. And it's not unrealistic for them to remove both lanes. But let's say that they don't, and you have this anti-damage. You still can't anti-damage the one that gets the extra soul. You can't even anti-damage the scariest lane. So even if all they have is single Escanor, you probably might just die anyway, even through an anti-damage, right? Because single Escanor could present 6 burn ones, and then all it takes is 4 of those hitting and a swing for 3 sticking, and you still die through an anti-damage. And I don't think that's a lot.
He told me through a ringer while I was visiting him here, and while he was forcing me to play 8 Stand by Quint, so I actually had to try to learn the deck. I got to play a little bit into 7 Deadly Sins, but it feels like any time that I saw the deck lose a game, the deck lost more to itself than anything that I could do to it. The deck is oh no, I whiffed a brainstorm, and because I whiffed a brainstorm where I was expecting to hit, now I can't combo off, giving you the opportunity to kill me when I'm on 3-1, 3-2, something like that. It was never something I played well. It was something deck with brainstorm when it shouldn't have with brainstorm. So I guess I get a chance to win now.
Yeah, and I think that was I know my personal record was it was actually the worst record I've ever had. But I did see 7 Deadly Sins twice, and every time I saw it, I felt like those were just automatically. I couldn't have done anything with a deck with as little reach as what I played. It does feel like the kind of thing where, I mean, my round 2, my round 1 opponent, where he's playing triple Ichika, he's playing for that. Suddenly that looks like a good deck. It wasn't a good deck too long ago, but it's a good deck into 7 Deadly Sins because it can probably kill them from 2-5, right? And it doesn't really try to hold board. So it's this thing where now you've got the old decks that are trying to hold board and bully board, like Quince and Kanatamarine, But now you also have the 7 deadly sins, and then like is just whatever the sacky shit is that's hoping to kill you from 2.
Well, so the spooky thing is about like Seven Deadly Sins, right? Um, the fucking Eskimos like clocks itself when it goes to the waiting room, so you can't like you can be kind of spooked about like if they just want to pop off, they kind of can.
That's true.
It's like if you like let's say you leave them at 2-5, they clock for turn, they'll just like over fucking play the Escanor and go to 3-0, and then they'll like still pop off and kill you.
That's like that is
spookiest part is they like you just kind of have to like they have to end the turn at like 2-3, 2-4, and then you just almost have to try to kill them from there. And then if
yeah.
you don't kill them, you just kind of fucking lose. It's because like at that point, if they're ready to pop off and like they're ready to kill you, you're just kind of dead.
Yeah, but it's the thing where like these like really sacky top ends that like weren't being played before suddenly like have a place on your team, like because like you're just like kind of hoping that they don't see the Kanata Marines and that those get bullied by something else and that they see the sins, right? It's like a really weird like rock paper scissors format, almost. Am I explaining that well? I might be explaining that poorly, but do you understand?
Yeah, I think I get it.
No, I understand what you're saying, dude.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what else to say about the deck. I don't think it's like, I don't know. The deck does lose to itself sometimes. But in terms of like good to normal games, I feel like I don't want to say it's broken. I feel like there's nothing you can do. Like there's literally nothing you can do. All you can do is heal. All you can do is heal as much as you can at 2, and you don't even get to keep your body because of the Cart Titan. So like you're gonna have to pay 2 stock to heal, and then you don't even get to keep your 2 soul body out of it cross turn against a deck that fields literal garbage. Like and like. So what are you supposed to do about that? Like
the thing is you say literal garbage. The problem is I've never seen a deck that feels literal garbage that gets to trigger for 2 every attack. That is a huge thing about the literal garbage they're fielding versus a normal deck.
yeah, because their 1-0 converts into another 1-0.
And that's like
yeah.
and but the fact that they're sitting there getting to hit soul triggers while fielding garbage, because normally it's like when people feel garbage, you're like, okay, they're gonna like swing 1-2-2, maybe 1-1-2 or something, right? Or they're gonna like slam a climax, and their numbers are gonna be like.
But against Sins, it's 2-3-2, right? Like,
or you're
yeah.
like 2-3-3 or something absurd, right? And so you're sitting there and you're just like, bro, please, like I need like it goes from I need to cancel twice to I need to cancel 3 times, right? It's the numbers that are coming at you are like crippling if even 1 sticks, and usually it's like 2 will stick, right? Because this is the kind of game we play. Like you don't.
And again, if you're playing a deck like mine, right? Like I said, like I went to 2-6, I was forced to triple Marine when it likely wouldn't kill because I don't have another turn. So I'm automatically dead to double Escanor, right? Like it forces you into those situations where it's like, well, I gotta try to coin flip you now, and your opponent's like, yeah, sorry, dude, I probably live, but go ahead and try. Like that was literally the experience that I had. My opponent knew that I had to go for it, and I knew that I had to go for it, even though like the chance was low. But it was the only chance that I had because I was definitely dead on the following turn. It's like a guarantee that you're dead on the following turn.
Well,
I don't think that's a healthy like game. Like that's not healthy for White Shorts, but
it's the way the game's been.
It's yeah, it is the way it is. I mean, we all knew the crazy shit like this was gonna come to English eventually. What we didn't expect is it to come in the form of an English original, right? But this is kind of on par with how JP's been.
Do you remember how wrong we felt about Escanor? As Summer Pockets players were like, oh, like big fucking whoop, dude, they got a Shiki. Little did we know.
Yeah, I'll say
Shiki didn't have anywhere near this amount of support. Like, let's not even get it twisted. Like,
even Shiki felt like kind of gross when you played against it. Like, I know like you may have had games where you're like behind and then like it didn't feel as good. But if you weren't like behind and you're like 3-0 fighting a Shiki, you're kind of like, oh, that's a pretty fucking obnoxious card.
yeah, but well, that deck also didn't have that set. Also didn't have the kind of support this set has.
I know it didn't.
It didn't have playable 2 soul triggers. It didn't have a card like Gil Thunder Bouncer.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not nearly as strong, but even Shiki, as crippled as it was at times, was like kind of spooky to sit across from,
So,
right?
yeah, it's like Shiki. Like if you're like a sometimes 3-0, but like if you're a 3-1, 3-2, your opponent feels triple Shiki, you're like, oh fuck, I'm dead. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
you can do from
Like
there.
you say like Shiki, so what? I'm like it may not have been like top tier, but it still wasn't like bad, is what I'm trying to
Yeah, yeah.
say.
It closed the game out, like I said, from like 3-1, 3-2. Sometimes if you're lucky, from like 2-0 or 3-0.
2-0, that's a pretty big gap.
Yeah, it's a little. Shiki can't do that. Literally cannot put up the numbers for that.
But yeah, I guess like another thing that I want to talk about, just before we fully wrap up, we ranted a little about Seven Deadly Sins. I know a lot of people, it's the first tournament of the season, right? We've got the first regional in NA. Well, not even NA, just in general, right? And so like, what did we see? Like, right, we talked about our matches, but like we looked around the tables, right? Um,
Sadly, Devin Lee Sin seemed to be fucking everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
SDS was all over the place.
SDS, like I said, much higher representation than I thought it would originally have.
Yeah, more Kana Tamarian than I thought I would. I
Yeah,
did see a lot of Kana Tamarian when
Yeah,
I thought
I
that
felt like
was
every team that I saw was like more often than not, every team I walked by, Tamari and Seven Deadly Sins. Like
yeah.
most team, like more than half of the teams I walked past.
And now here's what's crazy. Did you see as much 8 standby Quince as that?
I
No,
saw. I
It
did not see as much as I thought I would for sure.
Because for a deck that got first and second at Worlds, it seems weird with a $60 price tag.
you
Maybe
want to know what's
75 to
funny?
80.
That deck, despite how good it is, it's so boring to play for most people. I
I'm
feel
fucking
like
massive.
I feel like in trios where the format is a little wider by like fake diversity and a 66% chance to see specific matchups, right? Like a 66% less chance to see a specific matchup. I feel like maybe people have pivoted off of it to like try other stuff, and that's why we saw the new deck Seven Deadly Sins and like a bunch of
Right.
other random stuff. Whereas like Kana Tamari and the people that love Hololive, right? They love that deck. The deck has a very unique play style that a lot of people love, and I can't fault them for it because it is very rewarding to play when things go right and you don't randomly eat damage. So I can't like fault anybody for playing that because I know how fun that deck could be. So I feel like seeing Kana Tamarian and the deck Seven Deadly Sins was like pretty expected in hindsight, like hindsight 2020. But like that is what it is, right?
Yeah, and then like I know that like some people, I don't know why, but people in at least my area were like, "Oh man, Mishoku, it was like the best deck a year ago, and when you got to pull out 3 decks, maybe people get to pull out Mishoku." I don't think Mishoku was even in the room. I think there was like maybe 3 Mishoku players out of 43
I
teams.
think there was a couple. I don't. I did you.
I
You
said
guys
3
said
out of
three.
43.
Yeah, there was not too many, but I mean, like people are still. If you have limited shit to play, sometimes people are going to pull out and be like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
I know how to play Mushoku." Mushoku's still, it's still like obviously got hit by the ban, but like it's still a deck I'm not going to say you have to like fully respect, but you have to know how to play against it.
yeah. But other than that, like I think after those, like I think it was like, so what we got Hololive, we got Seven Deadly Sins, Quint's little bit less representation than we expected. AOT, I
They
mean, we
have an
saw it
8 standby Quince in top 4. I thought they just had like the weird ass like fucking Exodia Quince, right?
hit Exodia Quints in top. What?
Yeah, there was an Exodia Quince list at top from my understanding. I
Insane.
haven't
I'll have to
I
look at
haven't
that.
like re-looked at the list, but I don't think I saw 8 standby. I could be wrong.
I'll have to look at that list. I did not actually look at the list other than the one I knew I lost to. Um, which was the 8 pan. Well, sorry, not the. It was AOT that I lost to. That top got second. Um, AOT is like another one I think is like still in the meta. But after that, it really does just feel like whatever. Like if you see something that's not one of those, it could literally be anything at this point, right? Because there's no actual good decks left after that, it feels like. And I don't know if you guys agree with that, but like it feels like the community kind of agrees with that as well. Or at least the community agrees with that, at least off of what I saw at the tables.
Which decks are you talking about specifically? Are you talking about like 8 Standby Quints and like 7 Deadly Sins?
So,
Like,
so
what
I'm saying in the teams, you will see Hololive, 7 Deadly Sins, some Quints. Quints seems to have much lower representation than we thought, and like Attack on Titan. And if it's not one of those 4, it feels like it could literally be anything because, and I mean that in the most negative way humanly possible, that it's like if it's not one of those 4, it's probably not repped, and if it is repped, it's probably like something you don't care about.
Yeah, I would probably say that's correct. Outside of those, there's not too many other like real spooky decks running around. So yeah, I'd even
Or at
think
all.
AOT's even kind of like dropping off a little bit just because like
Well, AOT is like
Mark
half a deck in the meta.
yeah, it's well, it's not half a deck. It's a deck you gotta respect. Like the deck is still pretty real. It's just people playing AOT like you're playing a defensive build because like right now like one of the big reasons to play AOT is like the hexproof sport, right? You play down this arm and you're like, haha, I can't get tap counter, but like outside of Kana Tamarian, like what are you really like? What's the hexproof doing for you? It's not really doing anything. I guess Card Titan would be like, ha, I hit this Card Titan and
Cartine's in blue though, right? It's like, do they play blue?
I'm sorry, I more meant the 7 Deadly Sins Card Titan, so
Oh
not
yeah,
necessarily.
yeah.
Yeah, so like Card Titan hits, and if you positioned your characters properly, they can't just Card Titan, they'll just adopt you one instead. But yeah.
Yeah.
It does feel kind of like what you said. It's like you'll have, if not all 3 of your decks, like 2 of your decks will be those 4 decks you mentioned, and then one will be like, X random.
Yeah, like a literal random deck at this point. I feel like that's kind of the way the meta is. Or it's just like you take those 3 of those 4. I think 3 of those 4 is going to be most teams. And that if like well, the thing is like think about like previous metas, usually like you would have like your most represented decks and you have like clusters of decks after. Well, like this meta feels like it's those 4, and then like you're as likely to see Da Vinci mash waifu as you are like anything else because everything else is the same tier of viability afterwards is what I was trying to say.
I think, I mean,
That's a little bit of a hot take, but that's like kind of what I felt.
I
And like
disagree
when I
because some tiles are stronger than others.
some piles are stronger than others, but I'm saying like a viability into the other 4 is like what I'm trying to like feel. I know Kaguya just came out. Maybe Kaguya Set 2's got something in it. Once we get some more, that eye probably ain't it. I mean, the eye might be it if you could like see your matchups. But I mean, something we saw. I know that Jason himself and myself so, is that like you can't choose your matchup, so maybe you got to play into a little bit wider field, which is what makes those 4 decks just so good.
Yeah.
But this has been a pretty long tournament report, so I don't know if you guys have anything else to say or if we should
I'm
wrap
almost
this one up.
wondering if Carmen fell asleep at his desk, to be quite honest with you. Actually, I'm gonna go check. Give me a
Insane.
insane gameplay.
Keep this one in there.
Huh? What happened? Okay. Well, I guess that's it. See you guys in the next one. We'll be in Duluth.
That's the best video ending.